I'm not sure how many of you have ever been preached to before by a giant stick of bubble gum, but I swear, these are not mine. You look at Deacon Tom's stole, and that is rose, and that is the color that can be worn for the fourth Sunday of Lent. This is not rose. But anyway, this is the first time in my almost 38 years that I have agreed to put on the more festive vestment color of Lent. And I was willing to do so today because I'm very excited that we're right at this particular point at Lent this year. And the reason that I'm excited is because we have this gospel. Apart from maybe the accounts of Jesus' suffering and death and his resurrection, this story that he tells is maybe one of the most important parts of the gospel for us to hold on to, for us to be aware. You need the address. It's Gospel of Luke, chapter 15. And it's a beautiful chapter, and it's an amazing story. And I make reference to this story so many times in confession when people have been away for a long time. I point them to the Father in the story because that's who the story is really about. Not the spoiled, rotten son, not the self-righteous other son. It's about the Father. He was watching for his son to return. He was hoping that he would come back. And when he saw him coming, ran out to meet him, threw his arms around him. The son started in on his prepared apology, and his father cut him off and said, "The only thing that matters at this point is that you are back. We are back together. Let's pick it up. Let's take it from here." That's how God is with all of us. And we can never forget that. Please. And so because I love this gospel story so much, I thought, okay, well, I'll do what I can to just kind of keep things light and rejoicing. And so I want you to listen to the gospel again, but a little bit differently. This was written by a man named Timothy Fulop, who was the assistant dean of faculty at Columbia Theological Seminary. This is the parable of the prodigal son, as it's called, but in the key of F. And I'm hoping that you're all familiar enough with the story that you'll get the sense of all of the references as we go along. Okay? So this is the parable in the key of F. Feeling footloose and frisky, a feather-brained fellow forced his father to fork over his farthings. Fast he flew to foreign fields and frittered his family fortune, feasting fabulously with floozies and faithless friends. Flooded with flattery, he financed a full-fledged fling of fermented foam and fast food. Fleeced by his fellows in folly, facing famine, and feeling faintly fuzzy, He found himself a feed flinger in a filthy foreign farmyard. Feeling frail and fairly famished, he fain would have filled his frame with foraged food from the fodder fragments. The frazzled fugitive, fuming feverishly, faced the facts. Phooey, he figured, my father's flunkies fare far fancier. Finally, frustrated from failure and filled with foreboding, but following his feelings, he fled the filthy foreign farmyard. Far away, the father focused on the fretful, familiar form in the field and flew to him and fondly flung his forearms around the fatigued fugitive. Falling at his father's feet, the fugitive forlornly floundered, "Father, I have flunked and fruitlessly forfeited family favor." The fanciful father, forestalling and forbidding further flinching, frantically flagged the flunkies to fetch forth the finest fatling and fix a feast. Faithfully, the father's firstborn was in a fertile field fixing fences, while father and fugitive were feeling festive. The foreman felt fantastic as he flashed the fortunate news of a familiar family face that had forsaken fatal foolishness. 44 feet from the farmhouse, the firstborn found a farmhand fixing a fatling. Frowning and finding fault, he found father and fumed, "Floozies and foam from frittered family funds, and you fix a feast following this fugitive's falderall." The firstborn's fury flashed, but fussing was futile. The frugal firstborn felt it was fitting to feel favored for his faithfulness and fidelity to family, father, and farm. In foolhardy fashion, he faulted the father for failing to furnish a fatling and feast for his friends. His folly was not in feeling fit for feast and fatling for friends. Rather, his flaw was in his feeling about the fairness of the festival for the found fugitive. His fundamental fallacy was a fixation on favoritism, not forgiveness. Any focus on feeling favored will fester, and friction will force the frayed facade to fall. Frankly, the father felt the frigid firstborn's frugality of forgiveness was formidable and frightful. But the father's faithful fortitude and fearless forbearance to forgive both fugitive and firstborn flourishes. The far-sighted father figured, such fidelity is fine, but what forgives fervent festivity for the fugitive that is found? Unfurl the flags and finery, let fun and frolic freely flow. Former failure is forgotten, folly is forsaken. Forgiveness forms the foundation for future fortune. And at the end he says, 4 facets of the Father's fathomless fondness for finding faltering fugitives are forgiveness, facility for forgetting flaws, forever faithful friendship, and fadeless love. As I said, Luke 15. Because for all of us, what's it really all about? Father,